Welcome to Late Night Riders. On this episode, we talked with Narissa from Healing Hoofsteps.
This just blew my mind. The therapy that they get, and especially, related to the mental health day and what we are going through in this day and age, so important, and something that people should really look into doing, for your mental health.
If you're interested in starting an equine therapy program, Narissa gives a lot of good insight onto where to start and where to go. So, enjoy! Welcome to Late Night Riders. I'm Gretchen, and I'm joined by my mom, Kristen, and Narissa.
Hi.
Ladies, how you doing?
Good. Narissa, can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with horses?
So horses have been something that I've been in love with for as long as I can remember, even knowing what breathing was or what love was. When I was a little bitty girl, I loved to paint and draw, and I have like newspaper clippings of just horses. And whenever somebody would advertise or I would win an art contest, and it was always horses. And it was one of those things that my family actually kind of suppressed when I was younger. They thought, oh, well, she's just going to grow out of it. I'm almost 40 years old now, so the chances are pretty good that it's not going anywhere. So I actually didn't get into horses until officially having them in my life full time until later in life, when I met my husband, and he asked me if I had any hobbies, and I had small children at the time after going through a divorce, and I thought, what do you mean hobby? Like laundry, like going to the grocery store? That's a hobby, right? He said, no, something that only you love, that no one else has to love. And so then that was the first time I said, well, I love horses. He said, why don't you go find a horse to be around? And I thought, wow.
Okay. You were like, finally.
That's so cool.
I would have said, go do it. And I did.
Aww.
In a big way. So I'm so grateful that led me to discover equine assisted therapy and the power that, we as horse people know the power that our horses bring to us for healing, both mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, whatever. And so being able to take that and offer it to more people in the general public to help them work through different situations has just been absolutely a blessing, that I get to have my loves with me, and I get to have a business that helps other people through them. So it's been an incredible journey for sure.
So how did Healing Hoofsteps start? Because you got into horses later, so then how did you think, I'm so ready to start this business?
Well, so I grew up in a small town and started my career in business and marketing, and worked in radio, worked in cable advertising. And then, like most younger folks in the world, we had to follow my career and go live in a big city somewhere. So I took my husband and my children and we moved to Orlando, Florida. And at the time, my husband was traveling. Again, my children they weren't as young as they were initially when I got into horses, but they were still pretty young, and I didn't have any family close by, but I had a super career that I was chasing. And it was very high pressure. It was very stressful. And there was something about that, just sitting in the stall. It was the first time I'd ever just like sat in the stall for hours and hours, or sat in the round pen. And I thought, there's something therapeutic about this, even though we're not in the arena riding or doing lessons. There's something going on here, and I don't know what it is, but I surely can't be the only person that this happens to. So then I started researching, and there's a couple big worldwide organizations that facilitate the ethics and training for equine assisted therapy. One handles therapeutic riding, the PATH International Organization, and then EGALA, the Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Organization, facilitates all of the unmounted equine assisted psychotherapy, using licensed mental health counselors. And the thing about EGALA that really struck me was that the horses are typically loose in the sessions, and they have the ability to choose how they interact, to what degree they interact, or even how they don't interact at all with certain clients. And we all know that our horses are very different with different people, and everything they do has meaning. So it just struck such a chord with me, because when you're standing face to face, eye to eye with your horse, you can feel them and they can feel you. And it's just such an incredible connection. Not to negate anything to do with therapeutic riding, because therapeutic riding is incredible as well. But Igala struck the chord with me, and I said, you know what? I just got so fascinated with it. I got certified as an equine specialist back in 2013. And my parents wanted us to move back to the small town. Mostly they wanted their grandchildren back. And so we said, okay. And I said, look, I'm not going back just to go back. We live in an area in the panhandle of Florida. We have 5 military installations near us: Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marines, Navy. And my father is a Vietnam veteran. He flew combat search and rescue. Wow. So when I knew about all the strides that equine therapy was making for PTSD, moving back and starting this was a no-brainer. It brought us closer to our family, and nobody was doing this here. And so it started out just as, moving and buying a piece of property that was easy to get to, and trying to find a licensed mental health counselor near me who didn't think we were just brushing horses out in a field somewhere.
Right.
When you say equine therapy, most people assume therapeutic riding.
Right.
And so there was a couple years of struggle trying to find that right fit, that right team. And late one night, I got an email through my website from our clinical director now. She actually worked for the Lone Survivor Foundation in Texas, San Antonio, for several years, and started and ran their equine program, equine retreats program for veterans. They started out doing 4 retreats a year for veterans, and then the last year she was with them, they did 44. Wow. Lone Survivor was the movie that Mark Wahlberg did a few years ago. So she worked for the gentleman that movie was based on. She worked for Marcus Luttrell. And her husband had gotten stationed at one of the nearby air bases here, Eglin Air Force Base, and it was a lot of travel for her. And it just was one of those really amazing, like, universe alignment things. She knew everything about Igala. She had just gotten here, and it was just from that point on, we've done some incredible things, grown this program incredibly. We've grown our staff, our herd, our facilities. And it's just been to see the change that these horses make. And some of the people that come out have never even seen a horse up close.
Right.
More or less stood on the ground. If some of them have gone on trail rides, but they've never stood on the ground face to face with a loose horse. And it has some incredible metaphors. Everything we do is around metaphors. So just like when people are talking about people with trauma. So trauma isn't stored in the talking side of our brain. It's stored in the emotional side and the physical side. So with the guys that come back from war with PTSD, we're not asking them to talk to us a lot about what happened. We don't need to know that. They're going to go out and do different activities as part of the herd that help them learn how to process through different challenges that they're facing, whether it be being mindful and matching their steps with the horse and visiting different things, or constructing what a day is like in their life. We work out of a 2-acre horse pasture. We have 7, I have to say 7 equines because we do have a miniature donkey. So I am inclusive. Now, if you asked him, he would tell you he's 16 and a half hands.
Yep. That's typically how they are.
Yeah.
I have a dog bigger than that donkey, but the donkey's a hot mess. But he's great. And so, it's easier for people to project their trauma out onto a horse. Like, they see that relationship the 2 horses are having, like, oh, that's like so-and-so in my life, or they're friends, or that one doesn't like that one, that one's bullying that one. And whether or not that's really what's going on in the horse's mind is irrelevant. It's the internal dialogue of the person projecting that and telling their own story out onto the horses. A good example, there was a young kid that I worked with in Central Florida when I was getting trained to do this. And you can picture him, he was court ordered to be there. He had a chip on his shoulder, his pants sagging around his behind. He did not want to be there. And the only thing we asked him to do was to catch one of these 3 horses in this 2-acre horse pasture. So he snatches the rope and stomps off after the horses. And you know where this is going. They bolt.
Yeah.
It's July in Central Florida, and it is hot. And this kid chased these horses for 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And it's like watching paint dry, because we don't know what's going on inside the person, right?
Yeah.
Finally, the kid gives up, pulls his pants up, tightens his belt, drops his shoulders, and turns around to walk back to us in defeat. He gets almost to the barn, and the therapist I was working with, she just took one finger and she pointed right behind him. And as he turned around to look, now at this point, all three of those horses are now following him, and this look of absolute dumbfounded shock comes over him. So we get back and ask him, tell us what was going on for you out there. And he says, I never realized how much of an effect I could have on something else.
Wow.
So think about the power in that lesson. How many times did someone tell this kid, pull your pants up, don't talk like that, don't act like that? But it was just words.
Yes.
And he just took it off. But in that moment with those horses, he felt it.
Yeah.
He knew he didn't do very much of anything to change. He just stopped being aggressive.
Right.
And it changed the environment around him. So think about like when you apply that lesson to life, the positive change he was able to kind of make for himself moving forward after that experience. They call it experiential therapy. So we're creating experiences for people to learn a certain lesson.
Now, do you mostly work with vets, or is it anyone can be a client of yours?
Anyone can. We work currently, because we're using metaphors and because the horses are loose, we work with ages 11 and up. We do see anxiety, depression, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, relationship counseling we do. And the reason we work with some that are high functioning on the autism spectrum, but again, because what we're doing, the horses are loose, and we need to be able to communicate with the client verbally.
Right.
So that's a big deal. But we do work with all different kinds of individuals and couples. We are in the EGALA world, there are over 700 programs worldwide. We are one of 18 that are military designated programs. And for that reason, it means that we specialize in working with the military, working with vets and their families, that we actually get funding as part of the adaptive sports grant through the Veterans Association.
That's cool.
That covers sessions for veterans at absolutely no cost. So it's very cool to be able to offer that. We do an at-risk youth program. We do some with the Medicaid bunch here in our area. Different counseling offices send referrals, hospitals, anybody. And mental health is such a big crisis right now in our whole country that, to me, if your mental health isn't right, how can the rest of your health be right?
Right.
You need your mental health to drive your car, to go to work, to interact with your family, to care for anything and anyone. Your mental health has to be okay, right?
Yes.
And so to be able to be one of the amazing organizations that are near us in our area that are able to help folks with their mental health, it's just such an absolute blessing, and we're so grateful to have that opportunity and to do it through horses, of all things, to do it through horses. And they're just being horses.
Yeah. Well, you took me right back when we first started the conversation to being a young teen in the barn, taking care of the horses and sitting in a stall, and just there's something about being with that horse that you can't explain. I can tell you that many times, when you had a bad day at school or something, or it was just, school is tough when you're, it doesn't matter, I think, what age you are. When you're in school, it was tough, and going out and just crying into that horse's neck, but there's just something about the horses that, as you're saying this, it's like maybe I've taken for granted things that, where you said he had to, pull his pants up and get himself together, and his shoulders came down. I think you do those things naturally because the horses aren't cooperating with you if you go out there with an attitude, or you have to adjust so that you can take care and do your chores, of what you need to do. So that's a really interesting thing to think that maybe we just took that for granted, all those years of having that therapy and didn't even know it.
That's great therapy. Yeah, it is. And there's actually research out now that shows that by spending time with horses, that the human heart rate will actually lower and match that of the horse.
I've heard that. Is that different than a dog then? Because I have dogs and I love my dogs, but there's not that same connection as, I love them to death, but it's just not the same thing as being with a horse.
Well, the interesting part, and I think this is one thing that I've learned that speaks to that, is that the horse-human relationship is the only one in the animal kingdom where you take a predator, which is us, and Prey, which is them, and work together for a common goal. Because a dog is a predator, so is a cat, most birds. And so there's a really unique part of that relationship that really shouldn't kind of exist in Mother Nature, right? If predators are predators and prey is prey, but instead we're able to work together as partners in so many things. And it takes me back to thinking, like, how long would it have taken us to explore the West if we were dragging wagons ourselves, right? Horses got us. They got the mail system going. They got us from one coast to the other. And it's so cool to me because, when the Industrial Revolution came along, that's when the age of the horse kind of took a back burner to industry, right? You had cars, you had steam engines, you had all of these things. But then now you see the horse making their way back into mainstream life.
Yeah.
With a different job and with a different role, and one that's just as powerful and just as impactful as the first,
I agree. Do you feel that your marketing background really helped get your business up and running, or do you feel like it was just more location since you are by all these military bases?
Well, what I've learned, so Healing Hoofsteps was established in 2014. And what I've learned out of a lot of the mental health folks that I've met, as well as other programs, the marketing side is always, most horse people are not technology, business people. There's not that many. And the same thing goes with therapists too. A lot of the therapists I know, they would rather not be on camera. They would rather not do marketing. And it's just been something that, my background has led that to be so easy for me. Because when we started Healing Hoofsteps, nobody understood what EGALA was. I'd say EGALA, and it looked like I had a third eye coming out of my head. People go, what? What are you talking about? So to be able to constantly get out, stand in front of people, market the business, and most importantly, ensure that the marketing side's great, but you got to make sure that the customer experience, the client experience matches what you market. And we've been so fortunate that we've now moved into a stage of the business where we get so many referrals from other therapists and other organizations, that says to me, whatever we're doing is lining up with their expectations. We're either meeting or exceeding their expectations with the service that we're providing. So that in itself is very cool. But the marketing side definitely helps tremendously. I actually teach webinars at the EGALA conferences do workshops on marketing. I said webinars, workshops, any chance I can get out and help folks understand just some very key fundamental things that they can go out and do, because there's a lot of amazing programs out there, and a lot of them don't have the background to do marketing. They don't know where to start. And I actually built a website too. You guys will have to check it out, because when I got into this too, I learned that there are people that are therapeutic riding people, and then there are people that do unmounted work, and they didn't kind of play in the same sandbox, which I always thought was odd. If you use horses to improve the lives of humans, why does it matter what, from a client perspective? If I'm a client looking for equine therapy services, I don't understand the acronyms of PATH or EGALA. I just want to find somebody that's got equine therapy, right? So I built and run a website called equinetherapynetwork.org. There's over 1,800 listings, and yes, I populated most of them myself. In all 50 states, you can search by geographic location, by state, by region. And if you work with horses to help people, you can be listed on that site for free.
Wow.
So
that's an incredible resource.
If someone calls me and wants to do therapeutic riding, we're going to start a therapeutic riding program next year, a PATH program, but we don't currently have one, but I can tell you where someone is close to me. So the point was to make these programs easy to be found so that people can call them and inquire about their services, because more people are learning about equine therapy, more people are getting interested in it and seeing the benefits of it, and it's becoming more of a mainstream kind of thing. So I wanted to make it easy for the clients and easy for the programs. So it's equinetherapynetwork.org. And one day I will branch off and do Canada and the other ones. I get requests for those, but I just don't have time to do that yet.
So with I know you do like the single people, like a veteran or like this child that you had that came out. How do you do couples? How does that translate to couples?
So with couples, I'll give you a really good idea of one of the activities we do with couples. You'll get a kick out of this. We have them construct what a day is like in their relationship using the various cones and PVC pipes, and we have like a box full of other little props and things. And then when they're done, the therapist will go and process what each one of the props means to them. And then the second part of the activity comes in. We call it from the end of your rope. And we actually grab one of the horses, put a halter on one of them, and we take a 26-foot lead line and clip it to each side of the halter. Mm-hmm. And we put the husband at one end, 26 feet away, and the wife at the other end, 26 feet away. And from the ends of their ropes, they have to navigate the horse through their day.
Oh, wow. Oh, my.
You want to talk about metaphors that come out? You start firing off left and right. But you think about that. How difficult is it to accomplish something with your partner from the end of your rope?
Yeah. That's cool. I like that.
I would love to see you and my dad do that together.
It is entertaining, that is for sure.
Oh,
but
I'm
there's
sure.
so much learning about each other and learning how to work. Because a lot of the time when couples are having struggles relationship-wise, mm-hmm. it's because they're not working as a team anymore. Mm-hmm. It's her versus him, and you did this, and you did that, and blah, 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 blah. But when we create these activities where they work together as a team, mm-hmm. It changes things. It changes things.
Yeah.
So
that would even help, like, it sounds like it could even help relationships with your kids. Like, if you and I went out and did that, that'd be something, wouldn't it?
It would be something.
Oh, yeah. And it's just fascinating. We do family counseling as well. And it always plays out. Everything that happens out in the horse pasture always plays out towards real life. And it's so fascinating to see. And there's things that we just can't script. I can't write this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
We had a group of ladies that came out. We wrote a grant a couple years ago, and they came out for a site visit. And we spent so much time in the office doing PowerPoint presentations and answering questions. And it was actually, we're like, we got to get them outside. We got to get them outside. We only have 15 minutes left. So the activity we had planned, we ran out of time to do. And you typically send the folks out to meet the horses first. So the ladies walk out across the pasture, and my clinical director and I are thinking, what can we do? We got to do an activity that has to do with giving. What can we do? Sure enough, one of the ladies turns around. She says, I feel like we should be giving them something. Okay. Well, tell us about that. Let's talk about giving. And so that we all kind of circle up. So there's 6 of us standing in a circle, and they're talking about how much they want to be part of this organization. And at this point, our little black mare comes and puts her head between these 2 ladies. And they're scratching her, and they're talking about how much they just love being part of something bigger than themselves and giving back and being this and doing that. One of them stops scratching the horse. The little horse backs out of the circle, turns around, lifts her tail, and literally I had to move this woman out of the way from getting pooped on. And without skipping a beat, my clinical director says, that ever happened to you before? You get so focused on giving, and as soon as you turn your back on somebody, they just about poop on you.
Oh, wow.
And then you could see the light bulb just kind of going off, and they were like, oh my gosh. Now, I'm good with horses, but I cannot make one poop on command. I cannot do.
That's really something.
But how they know to show up in these ways with these clients is, I don't have an explanation for it. I just know that it happens. And it happens the way the clients need things to happen.
What kind of horses do you have?
So I have I can say this because my husband isn't in the room, the love of my life. She is one of Secretariat's great-great-granddaughters. Her name is Sedaria. She's 16 and a half hands.
Wow.
She did not make it in the racing world. I think she's more draft on the inside. She's the least thoroughbred mare that ever walked the earth. Racing was not her jam. She only raced a handful of races, and when she didn't make her quota, they tossed her in the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. So she is the reason for all. She was the one that saved me when I needed it the most. And I still, like, even when I see her every day and I see her help people, like, it brings up a lot in me, because she did so much. And I hope that she knows. But this is all really because of her and the power of that bond that she shares with me. But we have rescues from, I have one that was rescued from the slaughterhouse. He went to a rescue in northern Pennsylvania and was the lowest man on the totem pole. Got the snot kicked out of him and beat up. And the lady said, I got to find him a new home or put him by himself. And I said, well, send him home. He is the king of the castle here. His name is Doc Holliday. Cute. And he's an amazing, I think he's half Morgan, half quarter horse. But when they go to the slaughterhouse, you don't get any information on them. But he clearly has had some kind of training behind him. We've got some quarter Arabs. We've got Tennessee Walkers. We've got, of course, the miniature donkey. His name is Vin Diesel. Vinny. We have a Shetland pony. We have some paints. We have a little bit of everybody in different sizes, because even though my thoroughbred is, I think, the most docile one out there, someone that's never seen a horse before would look at her and go, oh my gosh, she's huge, right? When that Shetland pony is probably the toughest one out there. That would probably be the most likely to kick or anything like that, would be the Shetland. But people always say, oh, look at that cute little pony. Yeah. And Tiki Bear, she is just absolutely she's the most adorable Shetland. I found her. She was at a rescue in Melbourne, Florida, as part of an abused horse roundup near Lake Okeechobee several years ago. And when I went to the rescue looking for a mini to add to a program, she still had the lead line attached to her chin, and she was in a little paddock. And I asked them what the story was, and they said, well, when the ASPCA had brought her, she literally backed off the trailer and into this paddock, and that's where she lived. And if you got within 5 feet of her, she would just start shaking uncontrollably in fear. From my understanding, that she had been beaten and starved, I mean, to skin and bones. And to starve a Shetland, you have to try.
Wow, yeah.
So that translated into, I need to cut that halter off your face, because I didn't know how long it had been on there. And so that day I worked with her for a while and cut the halter off of her face and put a new halter on her. And I said, that's it, you're coming with me. And she's very picky about who she comes to and what she does and how she participates. But so many people think because she's little and she's cute that she's just going to run up to them. Yeah. And it's true to life too, right? There's always something like, everybody's like, oh, I think I should be able to attain that. Or, they're always chasing something. And so there's so many metaphors, like, what is that goal you're always what is it that you're trying to get a hold of? What is it that you're chasing? That's always kind of, when you get real close, moves away. Yeah. What is that? So yeah, they're a very different dynamic herd. One of our paint that we have, I'll have to send you guys the picture of everybody. Yeah. If you've seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High, have you seen that?
Yes. Yep.
Remember Spicoli? If this Indy horse of ours, he's a paint, beautiful. If he had a voice, he would be Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And he's beautiful. He's 16 and a half hands, tri-colored mane, brown and white spot. I mean, he's beautiful. And so most people go, oh, he's so gorgeous. I got to be near that horse. But he's kind of slow, like a jock in high school. Yeah. He's real good looking, just not a lot of layers. Yeah. So you can see the thought sink in his head when you ask him to do something. There's a delay. Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Sweet boy, just not a lot of layers.
Aw, that's so cool.
Yeah, they're an interesting bunch for sure. They've definitely got some personalities. So the donkey has been like the coolest newest edition. We got him, we thought, well, maybe we'll get a miniature mule between the donkey and the Shetland pony. No, no, no. The miniature donkey is in love with the oldest mare we have. She's 27. It's not going to work out. Uh, but he believes wholeheartedly that that is his love and that that's where the universe wants him. And so, yeah, so he's getting gelded very soon.
Oh my goodness. Oh my. That's so funny. I did want to go back to, so you have a therapist that's there. So do you, when you do the program, the therapist is watching the whole time then? And do they work in the field with the people, or do they you go back into like a classroom environment and kind of talk about
No, so
everything?
the therapists and the equine and the EGALA model, it always requires a licensed mental health counselor and a certified equine specialist. So my role as an equine specialist is to monitor and maintain the safety of the people and the horses and assist in the activities so that the therapist can focus on the needs of the client. So we walk around literally like a tandem team together in the horse pasture. Um, and because mostly therapists that are in an office working, they don't have 1,200 pounds kind of moving around that they
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about. So I'm kind of the eyes and the ears of what's going on for safety reasons.
Okay.
So every session we have, all of our licensed mental health counselors are EGALA certified. All of our equine specialists that we have on our staff are EGALA certified. We have an intern program. We have from some interns from Troy University that come out and work with our clients as well and learn how to do what we do. So yeah, we're always together. The only time I'm not with the therapist when we do initial intakes on clients. So just like you would go see a regular doctor
Mm-hmm.
or go to a regular counselor, you're going to do an initial evaluation with a therapist. That piece of information I don't need to be involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So they do that in our office, in our barn.
Hmm.
Just kind of go over what some treatment goals would be for the client, expectations, rules, policies, things like that. And then moving forward after that, then we're out working with the horses.
Hmm.
Now, do your patients stay the night, or is it like they only come for a couple hours, for a couple days?
The sessions are usually an hour in duration, unless we're doing group work is usually depending on the size of the group is usually an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm the regional networking coordinator for EGALA. So we do regional networking events that go from Southeast Alabama across Northwest Florida, where we do different practice sessions, and those might last 2.5 to 3 hours. But a typical client session is going to be an hour in duration.
Hmm.
Some folks come once a week, some come every other week. We have one lady that comes every 10 days.
Hmm.
She says it takes her that long to process some of the things that went on, the metaphors and things that happened in the session, so she needs 10 days. So we work around whatever is prevalent to the client and what their needs are. In our model of therapy, we actually believe that everyone has their own answers. It's just getting to them, quieting the mind, and getting to those answers organically without being told how to think and how to feel and how to react. Um, it's learning by doing versus learning by being told, essentially. But it is, in an hour, you'd be surprised how different horses can shift and change from one client to the next in an hour.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's only an hour. Do you think that it gives the client enough time to unwind and get into that? I mean, it must because you guys do it in an hour, but does it work like
Yeah,
that?
it does. And if for whatever reason the activity wasn't able to be completed in the hour, sometimes we'll take pictures. If they've constructed something, we'll take pictures of whatever it was they constructed, and then we'll put that back together and pick up from there the next
Okay.
time, so that we're being progressive. And we ask our clients because a lot of traditional therapy is very regimented in how we're going to do this and scripted and structured. So we ask our clients, is there something in particular you wanted to work on today?
Hmm.
Instead of it being our agenda, let it be what the client is coming for. They may have had a huge blow up at school or got in trouble at school or
Mm-hmm.
something at home. And if we're trying to work on a goal that we set as a treatment team, that's not in the best interest of the client, and it's not going to resonate as much with them as if it were what they wanted to work on and what was relevant to them.
Boy, I really hope that more of these pop up and that people can take this on because this is just a new way of thinking that would really truly help people.
It's unbelievable to be able to be part of this. And I just joke that I just work here. I just do the grunt work. I just work here. The horses are the ones doing all the work.
Wow.
I just make sure they're happy and fed. And, as we're starting and growing into our therapeutic riding program, I can't wait to be adding some more horses to that program and growing that. Some of the ones we have now, we started training them for the riding program, and they kind of looked at us like, wait a minute, we're retired. We don't do that. We don't exercise that much.
It's new to them. So how long, if somebody wanted to start a program like this, how long would it take and what would they need? I mean, you have to have a certain amount of acres, I would imagine. And what would you need?
The first thing you want to start with is you need to figure out whether you want to be a nonprofit or a for-profit business. Healing Hoofsteps is a 501c3. Our licensed therapists have their own LLCs and they're for-profits. But with nonprofits, obviously, we write grants, we do fundraisers, we do sponsorships for local businesses. And so we create different opportunities to raise funds either for scholarships or receiving grant funding from different organizations like the VA. You'd have to be a 501c3 to receive those. And then, having the horses, making sure your horses are safe, that they're sound. We know that all horses have teeth and all horses have hooves.
Mm-hmm.
I would not use like a horse named Biting Bob would probably not be a good one to use in a therapy program.
Mm-hmm.
Lightning, any of those, just kind of watch out for those things. But look at the different associations and find the one, whether it's Egala, whether it's Path, there's the OK Corral series, Natural Lifemanship. There's so many incredible organizations that someone can get certified. The biggest thing is find an organization and get some knowledge and some certification behind it, because we don't want people just putting humans out in horse pastures without having a therapeutic purpose or a reason for doing it, because then that makes the rest of the industry not seem qualified. We want just make sure you choose follow your heart and what organization resonates the most with you. And within those organizations, they've kind of built in plans to kind of help folks start these different programs.
Okay.
How to go out and talk to people and how to structure sessions. And so I would start there.
Okay.
So what's next for you in Healing Hoofsteps?
Therapeutic riding. And again, this is another one of those very cool things that the universe kind of delivered. We would go out and do lots of different festivals and speaking events, and people always ask, well, do you guys ride? Well, no. And then we explain how we do the sessions on the ground with the horses, that we're not just brushing horses in a field somewhere, or having people scoop our own, poop for us. But the need has definitely come up a lot in the community asking for therapeutic riding. There's a therapeutic riding program that's in the next county over, but it is kind of off the beaten path a bit. And so the need has been there. So the board decided that we were going to move in that direction. And we came across a girl who'd been a riding instructor for a number of years, and actually got Egala certified, but her passion was to have a therapeutic riding program. And even though it's not my passion, I can support it because we have the facility, we have the horses, we have the space to do it. And if somebody is passionate about doing that, I will absolutely support that. So she will be the director over our therapeutic riding program.
Nice.
And that's a big thing to undertake, because you have volunteers and there's a lot to that. So lots of grant writing for new structures and growing. And so I just want everybody to understand all the things about equine therapy, whether you've ever seen a horse or not, what it does for people.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll enter our next segment, Canter Banter.
This podcast is brought to you by Ramm Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. Ramm is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984. Do you love horses and live the equestrian lifestyle? Be sure to check out our brand new blog at www.yourhorsefarm.com, We publish 3 posts per week and feature a free printable equine checklist every month. YourHorseFarm.com is a great equine online resource, so be sure to share with all the horse lovers in your life. And remember, laugh much and ride often.
And we're back. On this segment of Canter Banter, Narissa is going to tell us about taking her horses to the detention center.
Yeah, so I actually had met the director of the local detention center here, and he had heard about equine therapy, and he was super excited, and asked if we could. The kids obviously couldn't leave the detention center, so the horses had to go there.
Wow.
Which really wasn't a problem because they had 12-foot chain link, with razor wire at the top, so the horses weren't going anywhere. And it was a group of young men. We kind of gave them an overview inside the detention center before we went out to the yard where the horses were. And there were 2 boys in particular that were absolutely terrified of the thought of being in front of loose horses. And they're probably 17. And they had never seen a horse outside of a movie or a book or on TV. And they said, "Oh, no, we can't. Nope. And these are tough kids. Remember, this is a detention center. They were all in there. They weren't in there for being, stellar kids." And so we, just kind of told them, it's completely up to you. We'd like for you to come out and participate with the horses, but if you're not okay with that, that's okay too. So reluctantly, these 2 boys go out in the yard, and there's about 6 or 7 boys total, and they're all teenage boys. And the 2 stood against the fence for a little while, and then kind of slowly worked their way closer and closer to the horses. One of them actually had hands on the horse, we didn't expect that at all. Then these 2 boys proceeded to actually come up with a game using some foam dice that we had, because they felt like the group of boys, and this is the 2 that didn't want anything to do with the horses. They felt like the group of boys was causing the horses too much anxiety, because the horses would move away when the group of boys would get right up on them. And so the 2 boys decided, they came up with a dice game, and they said you could roll the dice, and whoever's number was greater, whatever, that's who could go over and spend time with the horses. So through that activity, these boys actually calmed the horses down because they didn't have this giant group of boys going after them. Come to find out later, and at the end, the 2 boys that created this, they were actually over picking up grass, and going and feeding the horses. Come to find out, those 2 boys had the highest offenses of any one of the kids out there.
Wow.
Had an indefinite stay ahead of them in the system because of the offenses that they had. And it's so moving to me to see how a horse can take someone like that to where they're showing empathy, because that's the biggest thing, right? When someone goes and and commits a crime, there's no empathy, there's no understanding of what is going on, what their consequences are. These boys created a safer space for those horses completely out of their own creation. We didn't help them with that. And that resonated with me so much to see, they weren't even going to come out of the building.
Yeah.
More or less go and calm down a bunch of horses in front of their peers. But they did, and it wound up being such a moving experience for all of the boys. And it just, when I heard that later, it just absolutely blew me away.
That's incredible.
That was the first time and only time they'd ever seen a horse. So.
Wow. I think it goes to just show how important this could be with all of, I believe Mental Health Day was just recently as well, how important this is for people. And you do have that site that people can go to look up where these programs exist.
Yeah, so you can always look up our program online. Our program is www.healinghoofsteps.org. That's our program. But then if you want to look at all of the other programs in all 50 states, it's equinetherapynetwork.org. And then you can search by any of the 50 states, by zip code, by region, however you like, and find a program near you. And one last thing, if anybody's interested in starting a program, go visit as many programs as you can.
Okay.
Go learn from them what you like, what you don't like, what resonates with you, what doesn't. And that's really the best way, is just to go learn, go ask questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to record with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like to discuss? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@rampfence.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.